It's right here.
Oh man.
Woo! Welcome back, everybody. W Podcast live on YouTube. It's good to be back.
What's up?
W, you feeling ready?
I'm feeling ready.
Yeah,
Feeling ready.
dude.
Oh, is that the new hat?
They're 3-0 since I got it. I'm not putting any stipulations on it, but 3-0, man.
I like it. I like it. Now, is it one of those World Series ones with the
No, this is
no? Okay.
patch on the side, as you can see.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to get the mic and the patch.
Uh-huh.
It's not working. Anyway, it is 125 years, so it's a 2017 patch. So
All
yes,
right.
in case any listeners are out there, the Cardinals did not win the World Series in 2017. I wish they would have.
Well,
Trivia did.
trying to remember. There's a one of these online shops with the hats that they have World Series patches, but they're like they went like 70s, 80s, 90s in their releases, and so got like each team that won, and yeah, so I didn't know if it was maybe like one of those with the old skull patch,
Oh yeah, no, I saw one of those. I do love it because the 2006 World Series logo, dude, it's like burned in my brain. I'll never forget. So that's what I always think of.
Yeah.
Whew, man. Well, yeah, 3-0. I'm not putting any pressure on it since it's happening, but feeling good. They were down 5-0 today, came back, won it 8-6 against the Nationals. So, and they won the series against the Mets. So,
hey, at least you're winning games you're supposed to win, or
Kinda.
maybe should win.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man.
Yeah. Hey, at least right now you're playing better than Dodgers have over the last few games.
What is the deal with the Dodgers?
The bullpen is so bad. Yeah. Bullpen is. I mean, the last few series, they played the Reds. Was it last week or whatever?
Reds were fire too, so that's not helping.
So, well, the thing was they had leads, 7th, 8th, 9th inning every single game. Blew 2 of them, and they were walk-offs too. Got walked up. Then they turn around, play the Phillies. Same thing. Had leads, except for one game where they got just absolutely demolished. But they had leads. Got walked off 2 of them.
Yeah.
And then the Giants just came to LA and just absolutely just put a hurting on them.
Yeah, they're the second hottest team I think in baseball right now, besides the Reds. Yeah, it's still them. Yeah, seven in a row, 8-2 in their last 10. Not bad.
Yeah. I mean, they brought up Emmett Sheehan. The Dodgers did. Comes out 6 innings, no hit ball, and they're just like, well, it's not going to last because the bullpen has been that bad. First pitch, base hit. Okay, there's no hitter gone. Second pitch, 2-run home run.
Yeah. 2 pitches, 2 runs. Hey, that's it's efficiency. Yeah. At least he's not like loading the bases, walking in a guy, hitting a guy, and then getting out of it. Like he's at least getting to the point quick.
And on top of that, it was one of the guys that had actually been consistently good in the bullpen. And he just
Speaking of consistently good and out of the as a pitcher, Miller, dude, last start got blown up.
Got just demolished.
I mean, that's going to happen. You're a young pitcher. Finally, something's going to adjust, and so hopefully it was just a blip because he was looking real good.
I mean, he looked rock solid through the first 4 innings, and then that 5th inning came around and they started tattooing him, and that's something that has been like a big issue for him down in the minor leagues is that he'll have 3 or 4 really good starts, and then one game where he has control issues, and the control issues took over and just gets absolutely blistered.
Yeah, the 3 walks definitely don't help anybody, but I mean, really, that's just I don't think the Giants have had a better game this year besides that game. Like that was complete.
Yeah.
So I mean, worst shutout home loss in Dodger history. Did you know that?
Yeah. No, I did not.
Yeah, that's nuts, and it sucks that it came to the Giants of all teams.
All teams, yeah. I turned it off. I was watching. I turned it off. I was like, 7 runs in that one inning. I was like, well, that's probably done.
Hey, you just gotta have a little hope.
Yeah. I don't know. There's just Dodgers are just in this weird funk right now where I think they are going to have to make some moves before trade deadline, bullpen wise, or they're in
Might not be
trouble.
one of the first teams to do it, rather than when everybody else is doing it. Like jump on it early. I think they can
Yeah.
do that. The problem is if you're looking outside the league, you're going to have to jump to some of these teams. Maybe the Mariners, the White Sox, obviously the Royals are going to have some pieces. I think the Royals are a top candidate for the Dodgers to try to trade with this year. I don't know if they have a huge history or not, but you just think they have two guys in the back of the bullpen that you can plug in right away and hopefully have better success than what you're seeing right now. So I could see that. I think the Royals at least have two.
Yeah, definitely. I would expect that to be one of the teams they call up. I thought maybe the White Sox, but Hendricks, he's hurt again, so don't know if he'll end up getting traded. So But then on top of that, you also got to take in consideration that they're trying to stay under the luxury, and they only got about $14 million to play with.
It's not a lot, but
No.
I mean, even Chapman, you know what he got paid this last year? Like 2.5.
Yeah, so I knew it wasn't a whole lot.
I think they can make that work. Barlow's not. I mean, I don't think he's even hit free agency yet. He's still in arbitration, so he can't be that much. But there's lots of pieces out there. I'm sure we'll get to it as we get closer to the trade deadline. Are you cool to go ahead and hit and go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, go. 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome back, everybody, to the W Sports Podcast live as we record every single Monday night about 6:30. So we want you to join us because it's myself, Jimothy, alongside me on the YouTube is the best co-host in the business. Welcome to the show, Tubby.
What's up?
Let's go. Yeah, so we're going to have a full show today. We're going to hit the ground running because you know what? Basketball season's over. Hockey season is over. Golf season is happening. If you any golf watchers, listeners out there, we do have baseball. Football season isn't here yet, but here's the thing: like we're going to sprinkle in this stuff because OTAs are happening, all the offseason stuff is happening, and the draft is coming up for NBA. So, who's going to be number one? I bet we don't know. No, we do. We do know. But the rest of it's all there. So we're going to have plenty of stuff. Last week, if you didn't already know, we were breaking down some of the top tiers in college football quarterbacks. So there's a ranking for every single one of them. The article is linked in our description of the show last week as well as this week. So you can click on that and take a look at that article. It's a couple weeks old, but it's a pretty interesting one, and it gets the ball rolling for college football season that is going to be here before you know it.
Oh, so we're ready for college football.
Dude. I can't wait. I'm so ready for college football video game.
Hopefully the College Football Players Association don't screw things up when it comes out next year.
Dude, they're getting so much money everywhere else. They don't just come on now. When what's his face gets an evaluation of $119,000, or was that what it was, or was it?
Yeah, with Trail McCutcheon.
No, your evaluation should be $350 as an OU fan. That's fine.
Yeah, no. But the thing is, there's a lot of these top players coming out and then going, you know what? We'll take the 500. We don't probably do it for free. We just want to be part of the legacy of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these guys that are like, we just want to be part of the game. So I think hopefully the players will outrule them and go, hey, we'll take the 500 and run.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. Just give us the game, please.
Right? We've been waiting for so long.
Yeah, I'm just going to go into a little mini rabbit hole here. I want the ability to, if you have a school, let's say I always want to do a bad team. I always want to take a team, like UAB and build the program up, but I want to be able to build a stadium and have funds that I want a really in-depth thing. I know that makes you sound like such a dork, but that is the most fun. Let me set the prices for tickets. Let me do the merch. Let me do all this classic Madden things and just oh yeah, you want to add renovations or stuff like that? Yeah, let me do that. Let me have the facility. It should be a part of it if you're going to really have in depth with recruiting and even transfers. That's going to be a part of it.
Oh yeah, getting NIL deals for these kids.
I'm excited. I want to do it. So anyway,
I'm sure that'd be fun.
Over there, I'm definitely. It's going to be hard because the one I have now is from 2012, so it's literally 11 years old, and I'll play it every now and then. And there's only 119 teams on there, and they're all the ones that you probably know. Except Idaho is still on there, and they're a Division II team now. So there you go. But I want to be able to take all those random Georgia Southerns. Come on, give me that option.
I would hope so. I would hope that they would put all these teams on there. Just
it should be all. So
yeah.
That'll be good. But anyway, so today's show, we're going to start with some NFL news, as there was a little bit. I mean, even though it's the offseason in the NFL, it was always in the news. So we're going to start off with Stefon Diggs. You probably already saw this. Just mandatory minicamp started this last week, and he wasn't there, but his agent said he was.
Yeah. So he missed the first day. They said it was they let him miss the first day. They knew about it, but yet the press conference after that first mandatory minicamp with McDermott, and he was like, "Yeah, this is really concerning that he didn't show up. We have, we're very concerned." Well, then he shows up the next day, and then he's like, "Oh, you guys just took my words out of context," and I'm like, "No, yeah, you literally said you were concerned. You were very concerned that he didn't show up." Josh Allen even said, "Oh, I was probably part of the reason why he didn't show up. I probably should have reached out to him earlier after all the stuff that went down at the end of the season. Him being upset about his target share and his usage towards the end of the season, and then in the playoff, game against the Bengals. But yet, you try to say, oh well, they didn't do this right.
Yeah.
But oh wait, never mind. You took my words out of context, even though you came out and literally said, yeah, we're very concerned.
Yeah. This is one of those teetering things. Like the Bills were the darling of the NFL last year going into the regular season. Everyone's like, they're the team to beat. Goodbye, Chiefs, whatever. Chiefs win the Super Bowl, so no big deal. But now they're on this point where like, hey, we got so good. Are they either gonna keep getting better, or was that the peak? Did we already possibly see the peak of the Bills?
I think there's a good chance. Honestly, the regressions and the step back that Josh Allen took last year, I think is a big deal. Yeah, he was, and that's another thing though, is that you are a big time player, and you want to be out there and play every game and be out there for your teams. But at that point, if the injury was affecting your throwing, like I thought it probably was, then you have to do what's best for the team also, and take a step back and take a couple weeks off to try to heal, because you were clearly going to win that division. And so you take a couple weeks off, you still win the division, even if you lose those couple games. So, take a few, games off, a few weeks off, no practice, whatever, and let that injury heal enough to where you're not, throwing with pain every single time you throw the football.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of that is on him, but I mean, it's just the turnover numbers were insane last year for him. Yeah. And so I think he took a step back that way. And now you're going, okay, which Allen are we getting that Allen like we got last year, where we're going to have all these turnovers and you're forcing the ball, doing this, or we're going to get the Allen from a year or so before where, you still had some turnovers, but it wasn't, as big as this year. So are we seeing Allen, maybe teams figuring him out a little bit more, and he's going to have to try to find a way to fix his game a little bit. And I think that's where, DeAndre Hopkins coming in could be a big part, but honestly, it doesn't sound like that's anywhere going to happen, because Hopkins is looking strictly towards money. So I don't know. I think this is a team
on a wide receiver as much as they probably needed a good number two.
Yeah.
I don't know that they have it.
Yeah. I think this is a team we could see regress this year.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, probably, in
there, and Tua, if he's healthy, he's learning how to fall better. So for whatever that's worth.
And honestly, I think a lot of people are writing the Patriots off with Bill O'Brien coming in, and we've seen what Mac Jones can do. Yeah, we've seen what Mac Jones can do with a legit offensive coordinator, and sounds like he's already got a great relationship. All that toxicity that was there with Patricia and Joe Judge and Mac Jones constantly getting into these tiffs during practice. I don't think we'll see that, and so I think, and then on top of that, they're like the main team right now. It sounds like that in the running, probably the favorite for DeAndre Hopkins. So you bring in DeAndre Hopkins in with Juju Smith-Schuster, and then you got your run game and Ramondre Stevenson, Mike Gesicki coming in. You've got some weapons there now.
Yeah.
And so I think people are maybe sleeping on them, and the Buffalo, I don't know, there just seems something just seems a little off right now with that team.
Yeah, well, they're going to do stadium, so they're gonna have to put a good product on the field. That's if you're Josh Allen, you're like, hey, listen, I got paid. we're getting a new stadium, so the fans are gonna we're not going anywhere. The fans aren't worried about that, but we got to put a good product on the field whenever you're getting that kind of thing happening. But you're talking about that same division. Turns out Aaron Rodgers chose the Jets over the Patriots, which I'm going to say I 100% I get it, because I think you look at the Patriots' success the last 20 plus years, and you're like, I get that. Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest. And then you're like, yeah, but it's Bill Belichick and I'm Aaron Rodgers. I don't think we're going to see eye to eye at all. I think that's one of the biggest reasons.
Yeah, and then I guarantee you he was probably looking at talent-wise going, okay, yeah, they signed Juju. Other than that, if they don't, there's a possibility they can get D-Hop now, and so it could, help out a little bit more there for him. But he's probably looking at the Jets going, well, I know for sure they got Garrett Wilson, they got Breece Hall, they got Michael Carter, and now you brought in some other guys on offense, and and to top it off, they have a legit scary defense.
I know. It's crazy how that team, because of Zach Wilson, how bad they actually were last year towards the after they, what did they 4-2 I think to start, and then they were just a disaster.
Yeah,
something like that. They were a pretty good team, maybe 6-2. I can't remember now, but Chase Claypool now with the Chicago Bears. Now again, they traded a second round pick because you looked at this year's wide receiver and just where they're at. They probably weren't going to look at that, and the Bears are unhappy with what he's been doing in the offseason. Should this be a surprise for the Bears?
I mean, I don't think so. You look at who Claypool has been throughout his career. He's always been a me type player. He was always concerned about himself, looking good, celebrating when the clock's running. Oh, I got a first down. Okay. Instead of getting back to the ball, handing the ball to the ref so they could quick spike it, and then possibility of tying up the ball game, stuff like that. But the way it sounds, and Ryan Poles and them, they've come out and said, yeah, the report is completely false. We don't feel that way. There's always some truth to to the reports.
Yeah.
And they're saying, from what this guy said, they were saying they were unhappy with him on and off the field, that he's not a very self-motivated player when it comes to playing a game of football. And I'm like, honestly, it seems, just as someone looking, from the outside looking in, you go, yeah, he gives off that era of, oh, I'm better, I don't have to try as hard type thing.
Yeah, and he doesn't necessarily seem like the guy who's crisp on the details all the time, or like, hey, football is my life. Like, I love it. And that's okay. Most guys aren't like that. They're really talented. They're passionate about the business itself. But at the same time, they're like, hey, this is just, hey, this is a paycheck right now for me. And if it is, it's fine. This is where his avenue. But I don't think we should look at this guy and think he's going to be Chris Carter. You don't need to look at this guy and think he's DeAndre Hopkins, and that's okay, right? He's still uber talented. He's got all the physical tools that you can't teach. But if he doesn't want to do that next tier of maybe effort, energy, or discipline, or whatever, I don't know what it is for him. Or maybe he just doesn't like the Bears, right? I mean, that could be it too, and he could be wanting a different home, a different coaching staff. So, did you see the video that came out this last? Well, I don't remember when it came out, but I saw it on YouTube. And it was, I think it was Greg Schiano, and he was talking about the difference that he saw between the NFL and college coaching. Okay, so he said one of his first meetings, he came in, he was just talking about how he's trying to help these guys be better men. Because, it's a huge topic whenever it comes into college football. Like, hey, I'm teaching these guys to be men, because most of them aren't even going to make the next level in the pros. And here we are in the pros, and so these guys are like, I don't care. Your job is to help me get in a position to win. This is a business, because if I don't play well on Sunday, someone's coming for my job on Tuesday, and then I'm out without a paycheck. And so he's like, that was the hardest transition for him, was to be able to, it was a really cool interview, and just the openness that he had of like, I didn't do well at the next level, and because I'm a college coach, that kind of thought process, especially in the beginning of his journey there. But it was cool. I can't remember. I may be thinking of the wrong coach. I can't remember who it was, but
Schiano, he struggled.
Yeah,
when he went to the Buccaneers, everyone thought, "Yep, this is the next big coach." The transition from college to NFL, he's going to be him, because he was able to build up that Rutgers, team that no one really expected, and he built them up to a solid, program there for a little bit. And I can imagine the difference from, trying to get these kids, build these kids up, as good humans, good adults. Now you're dealing with these adults, and they're like, yeah, you completely different thought process of how things went.
Your job is to help me be a better man. That's great. That's cherry on top. Your job is to help me win. Help me be in a position to be the best me I can be. Like that's it. That's different athlete, because this is 100% pro sports, 100% of business. Now you could make the argument about that with college sports, but specifically with pro sports, because you're already there. There's no higher pinnacle once you're there. You're there.
Yeah.
Highest pinnacle you can get to. The Nuggets won the NBA Finals. We're not really an NBA podcast, but they did win the first one ever. I have a couple Nuggets fans that live here near me, and they're friends, and it's cool. They were repping the Nuggets gear the whole series. They were loving it, and I thought it was cool. Did you see the video? My wife shared it with me of Jokic after, like, they clipped all of his, like, he's not smiling, he's not happy, all those clips. Did you see that? It's the funniest things. He's in the press conference afterwards, and someone says, "Are you excited about the parade on Thursday?" And he goes, "No, I want to go home. I'm tired."
I saw that part.
Like, and then like, "Hey, no, you're going home Friday." It's like, okay. The most like, dude, you want it? Okay, I'm tired.
Yeah, it's time to go home. I'm glad. I think it's awesome for Jokic. We see someone, a team win it that isn't never won before, and so we get some new blood in there, new champion wise, and I think it kind of solidifies Jokic in the NBA. I think even though he had won multiple MVPs and he was been one of the best players in basketball over the last 5-6 years, I think a lot of people still slept on him as going, oh well, they can't win the big game, they can't do this. And granted, probably wasn't the toughest road to the championship or to a title, but he beat the teams that he had to beat. He can't, control how other things go. The Heat beating the Bucks and the Celtics, and
doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, and for the Suns losing early and all this other stuff, or them beating the Suns, Warriors losing, this and that. There's not really a whole lot he can do. He plays the opponents that win. And that's what it came down to. And so people are like, oh, it's the easiest championship ever, and so it doesn't mean as much. I mean, if he could handpick it, he probably would be one of those competitors where he'd want to beat the best of the best every single time he played him. So that's not how it works out in sports, unfortunately. When it comes to playoffs, a lot of times the top teams aren't going to make it and face each other in the championship. That's just how it works. So you can't diminish anything for the guy, because one, he averaged a 30-point triple-double throughout the playoffs. Yeah. It led the playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists. You can't take anything away from him. So, yeah, I think it's awesome that, they were able to lock it up and get some new, fresh, blood in there with championships.
You got to get at least some new teams. It can't always be the LAs, the Bostons, the Spurs, the Bulls, the Heat, like those classic ones that, since we've been alive, have been the ones that have won it. Houston won it twice. I bet we could go back and we could name every single champion since Michael Jordan won his first. I bet we could do it.
It'd be a lot of thinking, but I think we could probably
get on a roll. Once you throw in the Spurs and you're like, oh, and the next, okay, then we had the three-peat. Okay, then you had the Pistons. Okay, then you had, you could. I think you could do it, man. I believe in us.
I think we probably can make it work. I think we could, think our way through it.
Yeah. Talking about history, LeBron. Where did this Memphis thing come from? I don't even know.
Okay, so I saw the story. What was it? Saturday, I think, on ESPN, and it's Jerry West. At that time, Jerry West was the GM and operator, vice president of operations for Memphis. Well, back in 1997, all the way back in 1997, they traded their first round pick for a guy named Otis Thorpe. They were needed rebounding. Otis Thorpe had a decent NBA career, solid NBA career, 14 points, 9 rebounds, career average, solid numbers. But they needed a center. They needed someone that could rebound. Back in that day, that was a massive deal, have someone that could grab boards. So they send unprotected first-round pick to the Pistons for the 2003 draft. Well, come to find out, it wasn't unprotected. It was protected by one thing. They had to get the number 1 pick in the draft. And so they have a 6.5% chance of winning. And they go to some guy in Memphis who's like, I have this goat. It's man of the goat. He'll bring you all the luck, all this stuff like that. It came in like this big wild thing. And they end up getting the second pick. Well, the second pick ended up going to Detroit and all that. But I'm like, just think of the domino effect that could have happened if, say, Memphis ended up getting that number 1 pick. Memphis gets that number 1 pick. They get LeBron. What happens with LeBron's career at that point? Because one, he may not really leave Memphis like he did Cleveland, because you had Pau Gasol, you had Shane Battier, you had Jason Williams, you had Bonzi Well, yeah, Mike Miller, you had all these guys, throughout the, just in 2003, just on that roster at that point in time. And I'm like, so then what happens if that, if that's the case, and say he stays a little bit, tries to work things through, does Kobe get his final 2 championships? And, because
here's
does
the thing.
Pau Gasol get traded?
Probably, I don't know. But my biggest thought on that is, like, I don't know that LeBron has the success because he's in the West, and the West in the 2000s was by far the stronger beast.
But the thing is, the big reason why he left Cleveland is because he had no help whatsoever.
Yeah,
now you got.
But he's still making finals because, well, I guess he.
But he didn't. He made one final and got absolutely destroyed in that final.
Yeah,
and then had to go build a super team in Miami to compete. But at least you have Pau, who was a future Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. You have someone that they better player than you had anywhere on that Cleveland roster. And then you bring in other guys, because at that point, I'm sure they're going to be more competitive. People may want to come play. You got Pau, you got LeBron. The thing is the biggest caveat is LeBron's not that loyal of a guy. And so I doubt he probably would have stayed. And plus, it is Memphis, and some people just don't want to be there. Yeah. But you just think about it, though. If it possibly, the way it could have played out, yeah, the ripple effect could have been massive. That Kobe could have never got, those final 2 rings. LeBron.
What are you talking about? Kobe's going to get his rings.
They don't bring in Pau Gasol. They don't win those rings.
He's going to get his rings. We cannot disrespect Kobe this way.
I'm not disrespecting. I'm just respecting the team that was around him at the time.
Yeah, that's true. That would have been wild, though. You don't ever think, like Sam Presti, when he's trading for all these picks with the Thunder, and you're like, dude, what are you going to do with all these picks? And then years down the road, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, wow, that worked out well, because you never know. Yeah. So how about that? The Vegas absolutely. I mean, that was probably the highest scoring I think I've ever seen when it comes to a Stanley Cup final. That was insane.
Dude, that was, yeah. What was the final clinching game? Was it 93?
Yeah, I mean, just the series. It felt
just
out of control.
Yeah, it was almost like it's kind of like what happened with the Heat. You got 2 Florida teams. They go through and they just beat the best teams in that, on that side. You had the Heat beat Celtics and beat the Bucks. Well, you had the Panthers beat the Boston Bruins and beat the Toronto Maple Leafs and Carolina, who hadn't lost a single home playoff game in the last 2 or 3 playoffs.
Yeah.
And go on this run, and I think they just got tapped, ran out of steam and ran into a team in
was a machine.
Vegas that was just on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, Vegas knows success pretty well since they've been obviously created or whatever, expansion team. But I saw a good thing that said the Florida Panthers should raise up a banner that says, they had the division champion ones, their conference championship or whatever. They need to raise one that says didn't get swept 2023. Because they were outmatched at that. Like you said, they were they just didn't have it at that point. And in watching those games and the highlights and stuff like that, that's just, I think I felt it was pretty apparent. Like Vegas was the better team.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew Tkachuk did everything he could. He even finished the game with a broken sternum.
Talk about a hockey player, man.
Yeah, didn't end up playing the final, the clinching game, but yeah, Vegas becomes the fastest expansion team in all major sports to win it all. So that was pretty.
How many years was it? 3, 4?
Yeah, is it 4? Is it 4?
I thought because So they had to beat the record by the Marlins, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty, or maybe it was 3. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw things that they were the fastest expansion team to win the championship.
And Miami did it in 4 years.
Yeah, I think it was it because they made it the first year they were expansion team.
2017.
Then
No, they did it. It was 6 years.
was it okay? Maybe it
Yeah.
was.
So they're the fastest hockey team to do an
Maybe
expansion.
just maybe it's okay. Maybe I read it wrong.
The Marlins, you're like, no way, Shane.
Yeah,
No. But yeah, I didn't realize that Vegas had been around since 2017.
I didn't either. I thought it was like 2020.
I know. I'm like, did
like
they
I said,
start COVID?
like I said, I'm not. I'm just now getting into the hockey swing. But then you have Stone be the first player in Stanley Cup clinching game since 1922 to have a hat trick. 1922.
I don't understand how it's been that long. I guess now they have really made a lot of rule changes. Colin, you're probably really good at this, knowing all the details of this. The rule changes to help influence more scoring, because for a while there was a lot like soccer, like it was 1-2-2, 1-0-0, and that's not necessarily a good product for fans to enjoy. And I get like why you got to have more offense. 9-3 is pretty big, but
Yeah.
they lost. Yeah, I remember the first year, and that was like we got all the owners are like, we got to change this expansion draft.
Yeah.
We'll do this.
Well, Seattle's had a pretty good success themselves, so
I know.
I mean, so hey, but the funny thing is, the guy that wins the Conn Smythe, Marshall Shaw, he was a pick in the expansion draft from the Panthers.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So, well, who would have thought we would have wrapped up 2 series, almost similar storylines and styles, with championships this year. So, heading into baseball, we got a couple things we're going to hit on this one. So, man, big loss here for the Astros. Looked like they were picking up steam, and now they are tripping, running around third base is what it looks like. And Yordan Alvarez ruled out for at least a month, and I wouldn't be surprised if that. I mean, he's already spent some time on the shelf. He's become a little bit, not necessarily injury plagued, but he's injury prone. So like how something else is bugging him, something else is bugging him, something else is bugging him. And that's the problem. So how big of a deal is this for the Astros?
It all depends on what the Rangers can do with this, because now, but the Rangers have kind of stumbled over the last week, in a couple weeks, losing some series, but they have played some really good teams. So, but if they can find a way to capitalize on this and broaden that AL West lead enough that maybe they're not having to play in any of these wild card series before, and they can clinch the AL West. And right now, I mean, since this injury's come down, Astros have lost 4 in a row.
Yeah,
and
they are lost 4 in a row, 3-7 in the last 10.
Yeah, so the injury is a big deal. That they have losing your best player, guy who was probably in that conversation with Otani for AL MVP, and now you lose him for a month, maybe a little bit more. So there goes a huge part of your offense, and the team that offensive wise hasn't been the best.
Yeah. And that's exactly true. I mean, you look at Jeremy Pena's been good, not great, 250 average, 8 home runs, 27 RBIs. Jose Abreu's finally got some home runs. He's got 4 now. But he's still, I mean, he's not even replacement level now. There's Kyle Tucker's, he's doing Kyle Tucker things. I think at the end of the year, you're going to see him with 20, 25, 27 home runs and probably close to 100 RBIs, but he's still going to be hitting 285. Like he's good.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jose Altuve's back, and he's been doing decently well overall. He's not striking out too much, but I don't know, man. It's my question would be is when he comes back in a month, we're probably right around the All-Star break, so he's not coming back until after the break, and maybe around the trade deadline, just depending on how the healing goes. Are the 3 games back, the Mariners, are they tied or are they behind or ahead of the Astros?
That's tough. Because the Mariners have played better ball over the last couple of weeks, so maybe they are finding there's momentum going towards the All-Star break and stuff like that. I would say they may be close to being. I'll say tie, just because I would still think the Astros will find a way to win some of those games, and they have decent pitching still, but it's going to come down to, can they score enough runs without Yordan Alvarez there, who for the most part of the season was leading in RBIs in the AL, one of the top 3 or 4 guys in home runs, and now you take all that out and have to try to find a way to replace that, which, I mean, there's no one in the minor league system that they have that's going to be able to replace what production
for
he puts
sure,
up.
absolutely. Yeah, well, I should have given you a caveat as well. The Mariners' schedule to end is a lot like the Cardinals' schedule to start. It's brutal. They got coming up. They have the Yankees. This is at Yankees, at Baltimore. Then they get the Nationals, which will be a good break. But then against Tampa Bay, then San Francisco, who's on the road, and then 4 games against Houston. So that'll be a big series before the All-Star break. But the Astros, they have the Rangers 4-game set, so that's a big one while he'll be out. They have 4 games against the Mariners, so that's 8 games in division. Outside that, they do have the Dodgers on the road. And then that it's kind of ho-hum guys, some teams that aren't playing very well. So it's a tough schedule for the Mariners to make up that ground right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. See if they try to make some move at the deadline to maybe negate some of that. Which, honestly, at that point, he's going to be close to coming back. So I don't know if they really do, and they don't have the deepest farm system as it is. So
yeah. Well, if you had to look at teams, what's one team right now that you're most surprised by in the league?
So if I'm surprised by, I'm gonna go with the Miami Marlins. You're
okay. You took mine. I'm gonna pick a different one. 41-31 as we record. I looked up and I saw they were 10 games over 500 the other day, and I was like, "You got to be how?" They're -24 in the run differential, and they're just what is this?
And you're doing this all with your ace pitching, your pitcher just having an absolutely awful year for his standards.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that last year we were like, yeah, this is the best pitcher in baseball, and now we're looking at him, he's an absolute shell of himself.
Mm-hmm.
The hits, the walks, the Ks per 9, everything's either up or down in the negative way. So you would look at that and you go, okay, there's no way that they have a winning record right now, but it's the young pitching of guys like Luzardo and Yuri Perez and Edwin Cabrera starting to pitch better. You got Max Meyer coming back from the Tommy John surgery, and he's starting to get ramped up and ready to pitch. So you got all these young guys that have started pitching, and then on top of that, you got your table setter in Luis Arias, hitting close to 400, and Jorge Soler in his, hot streak right now.
Yeah, Arias is 3 for 3 today as well, and they are winning against the Jays. And, it's just a Monday, so Colin, I know you're in the chat right now, and I just thought it's 5-0. Marlins are beating the Blue Jays. Is Manoah pitching again? And so it's going to be our memory for Monday recordings, man. I'm sorry.
Barrios is pitching today.
Do what?
Barrios is pitching today.
Is he? Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, did not. He's already out of the game. 100 pitches, 4 innings, 5 runs.
Say, Barrios was having a pretty solid year. Had a 3.28 ERA coming into this.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't good. But this team is on fire right now. Like you said, it's such an interesting way to have a lineup. I think like they built, these aren't the typical names that you're looking at. Mm-hmm. I would love to say it's the Rangers, but I like the Rangers last year. I still believed in the Rangers. So I'm going to look to the other side. The team that I'm most pleasantly surprised with is by far, and I don't want to be recency biased here, it is going to be one of 2 teams. You can either choose the Giants or the Reds. Both teams are both very hot right now, combined 15-game winning streak. But I definitely didn't see the Reds specifically in this part of the build. I didn't see them being competitive. This is the most wins they've had this early on, or the best win streak they've had since 2012. 8 games. And I'm just saying, but Joey Votto's about to come back. They got Elo de la Cruz going, which this is the question I meant to ask you last week that I forgot to. You had to choose Elo de la Cruz or O'Neal Cruz.
Oh, I'll take Ellie any day. I think Ellie is the better version.
Ellie, my bad.
Yeah, I think Ellie is the better version of O'Neal Cruz.
Wow.
And it was this is something that I said at the beginning of the year when we had talked about the prospects, with the Reds, that they had the young prospects. And, with McLean, he's come up and he's absolutely right for the Reds. And you have, Ellie De Cruz, where, will he actually make it up to the majors? There's still the question. I said he was the biggest he was the biggest boomer bust prospect out of any of them. That if he hit, this is a guy that we're looking at as a difference maker in the team, or we're looking at absolute flop and we don't know about him in a few years because he fell off that hard. And right now, I mean, he's gone through a little bit of a struggle, of course, but that first start, the first week of baseball, 6-game hit streak in his first 6 games, and he's come up and it seems like he's brought this different energy to this team. And yeah, Ellie's looks for real.
Yeah, this year when you were looking on paper, I looked at the Reds as a team that maybe wins 76 games. If they just stay competitive, they don't trade away everything. But they brought in a lot of young talent that a lot of teams may not have yet or waited till after the break. It feels like it's provided the spark. All that said, they're 2 games over 500, but it's still way better than I was expecting. I was expecting closer to 76 and 86 or something like that, which there's still time to do that. We obviously can't say the Diamondbacks because we talked about the Diamondbacks a lot already. And the AL's version of the Diamondbacks is the Baltimore Orioles. I think that has to be said. They continue to win. They're 7-3 in their last 10, and they're 44-27 overall. Still 5 games back in first place, but hey.
Yeah. And another team that I think you could throw in there is the Angels right now. This is a team that I didn't expect to be, exactly what they're doing right now. I didn't expect them to be anywhere close to this. I thought they would be,
right at 500.
A bad team. Yeah.
36.
I didn't expect them to be great. And so, I'm not saying they're great, but I didn't expect them to have the success that they've had this year. I thought we would see something like we did last year, where it was just this, maybe start out a little bit hot and then just a tumultuous, next couple months where they're like, okay, it's time to throw it in and we're done. We got nothing left for the season. But not the case. And I think it's a team that's surprised a little bit in a good way.
Here's the thing. I'm trying to spell surprise in the chat. I can't. Oh, man, I can't spell. Yeah, so with that question, obviously you have to ask anybody in the chat if you have a team that you're most surprised by in a good way. Because we're going to ask the opposite question. If the team that you're most disappointed maybe so far this year. We're almost at the halfway mark, too, of the season. So when you look at it, and we're going to negate – I'm going to say we're going to negate the Cardinals and probably the Dodgers just because we are biased, and we're going to say we thought. Although you typically have reasonable expectations when it comes to your Dodgers and Packers, and I think it's unlike me where I picked the Cardinals to represent the NL. So anyway,
they have kind of picked up some steam a little bit, but I think it's the Seattle Mariners. This is a team that I expected to be above 500, and they just got to 500 here recently. And I expected them to be the team, not the Rangers, that was giving the Astros the biggest run for the AL West. And granted, they have, like I said, they've started turning around a little bit, but I still don't completely trust in what this team has done or what they're doing. I think that you look at it and you got four of the top 5 strikeout guys hitting wise in the AL West, in just the AL period. It's not a recipe for success when you have guys that are already, you have 4 guys already that have struck out over 70 times, and we're not even at the halfway point in the season.
Yeah.
And I think the pitching has been a little bit lackluster from what I expected. I think the bullpen's still a question mark. How well can the bullpen be? So I think that this team I expected more out of than a 500 team right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And for the record, I feel like this list is bigger than the surprise list.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, who do you think Colin said? I'm gonna put in the chat real quick.
I'm guessing the Blue Jays.
He should have just said Alek Manoah. But yes, absolutely. You're 100% true, Colin. I think that's a good team. to put on there. I think this is a team. We're saying this. They're 5 over 500 right now. They are plus in the run differential column. They still have plenty of time. It's a long season. My uncle is hilarious. I used to always send him text, "What is wrong with the Cardinals? What is wrong with the team? What is it?" And he'd always respond the same way. It's a long season. I literally told him that yesterday, and I called him. I said, "Hey, thanks for the wisdom that it's always a long season, right? There's always hope." And he goes, "Yep, this season may not be long enough." And I was like, "Oh man, gotta put that on the shirt. That is too good." So disappointing teams this year. I'm going to think of absolute disasters. The Kansas City Royals, disaster. Absolutely, I don't understand. Other than the fact that they can trade Barlow and they can trade Chapman, they already say they ain't going to trade Salvador Perez, which I get. He's a catcher. The market's not great for that ever. This team is so bad. They took steps back from last year, and last year they were a year away from being somewhat competitive in most series. So they're a team. The Mets, Cardinals coming off of that series against the Mets. This was absolutely just the team didn't even show up, and obviously the starting pitching isn't all healthy. That's part of it. But this team, for the dollars that you absolutely shelled out for this team, it reminds me so much of what the Padres did. Another team that's kind of disappointing, but 7-3 in the last 10. But another team that you look at, you're like, my gosh, I cannot understand why owners keep thinking that it's all about money. It's not. And then, but their money is important. A's, Rays, Marlins, Rockies. You do need some money, but it's not all about money.
Yeah, I mean, you named one, the Padres. I think Padres you could absolutely throw in that list of being disappointments. I mean, everyone expected this to be, the Padres to be the team that takes out the Dodgers in the West this year. And right now, it's looking like it's Diamondbacks, and shoot, the way the Giants are going right now, they have a possibility to be that team. But yeah, I think the Mets. For us, though, I think the Mets and Padres you can almost kind of take off the list, because this is something we kind of predicted and expected something like this to happen between these two teams, that they go out and pay all this money. They're, especially the Padres were like, they're so top heavy. They don't have much depth here and there. Well, Michael Wacha's having an absolute, renaissance of the season this year and pitching incredible. Snell had a great outing, but he's still pitching there. I mean, Darvish pitching solid, but that bullpen, I think, is a big concern for them right now. But yeah, the Mets, Scherzer, I don't know what you do there. I mean, you got a guy that after the 10-game suspension in the last 7 starts, he's got a 4.82 ERA out of a guy you're paying $40 million a year to be the top 5 pitcher, top 3 pitcher in baseball, and now he's just it's almost kind of like last year at the end of the season was a glimpse of what you could possibly see with Scherzer towards the way he finished that season and into the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that worries me a little bit about the Padres, and you Colin put in the chat too. So, I look at those guys, Snell, Walker, Darvish, and they've had Martinez start a little bit, Musgrove. I just look at these guys, and when it comes to playoff time, some of these guys are better than the Cardinals pitchers that they had last year. But the thing that they're going to run into is, I'm probably going to pick other teams' aces. I'm going to pick their 1-2s, over these guys. That's going to be their hardest thing. I mean, if you go against the Diamondbacks in the playoffs, who 1-2 punch are you going to take?
Yeah, you got Wade Gallen and Merrill pitching right now. Yeah, you take those.
Yeah, so it's just such an uphill battle. But there's obviously lots of trade deadline stuff that can happen. So they have not lost a series. The Padres haven't lost. They've tied 2 series, a split on a 2-game and split on a 4-game set, but they haven't lost since they played the Yankees. So that's pretty good. I mean, they're at least my goal for a team in baseball. You can't win every game, but you can win every series. So just go out there and win every series. So we'll see how that goes. Did you hear about the Cardinals and Cubs London series coming up? Right?
Yeah.
Did you hear that the fences were moved way back?
Were they?
Yeah, because of the Yankees and Red Sox. It was, I think, in 19 before the pandemic. I remember that game. It was almost like Mexico City, where it's like 16-9 or something. It was just absurd.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, well, what were they? playing on softball field? Is that, or they had to move back that far?
All it was just flying. I don't know what the
Wow.
dimensions were. It feels different in the stadiums because they're not necessarily baseball stadiums, but
Mhm.
yeah. So
That's fun.
anyway, we got time.
But just one thing I will say for Colin as the Blue Jays fan is that look at what they've done. You said they're 5 games above 500, and we're like they haven't played their best ball yet this year, and they're still 5 games above 500. So I don't think there's much to panic about. Yeah, right now they may be like a half game out of the playoff, the final wild card spot, but I think we will see the best baseball that they played this year here in the next month or so, where we finally see things start clicking and them figuring things out, and hopefully for Manoah, them sending him down, maybe he figures something out mechanically. They were able to, whatever, and he's able to come back up, and hopefully tonight's start for Barrios wasn't a precursor to what's to come.
I hope not. Just ran into an fired Marlins team.
Yeah, and like I said, the guy that had a 3.28 ERA coming into this game. So I mean, he's pitched pretty solid this year, especially compared to what we saw last year from Jose Barrios.
Yeah. Well, if you're ready, let's move on to some SEC football. As we are OU fans, so we are SEC next year. 8-game schedule did come out for next year. So my question is, were you okay with it? Do you think yay? Do you think no, we need some work? This isn't even balanced at all. Or do you think, yeah, don't worry, it'll work itself out?
I mean, if you're just going based off excitement about the teams that are, that OU is playing, I love it because you get Alabama, you get Tennessee coming to Norman, big, huge teams. I can't imagine what that Alabama OU game is going to be like in Norman. The amount of people, how loud it's going to be.
About it right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, do I think some of these schedules are very uneven? Absolutely. I mean, some of these schedules were just brutal. Like you get like A&M, they don't have to play either Alabama or Georgia next year.
I know. Well, they went 5 and said we need to let them have let's give them Vanderbilt and Kentucky and
yeah. I mean, you take the Texas schedule. I mean, you just take the 2 new teams coming in Texas schedule. If you're going based off hoping you win, I'll take that Texas schedule over the OU schedule just based off of that fact. I mean, yeah, the big game that Texas has, Georgia's coming to Austin. Then you got Vandy, you got Florida, who's in this weird flux right now. You don't know what's going on. Yeah, Kentucky, a team that who knows what they're going to be like next year. I mean, Stoops will always have the defense, but can he have the offense? Yeah, it's a very interesting way they did it. But hey, like I said, it's going to make for exciting football in Norman. Something that you look at all the the teams that are coming to Norman next year, and all those teams. You take any team from the Big 12 besides maybe Oklahoma State that may draw the biggest crowds, and you take Alabama, you take Tennessee over those teams 10 out of 10 times, because I mean you don't just have Tennessee coming, who's a program that's on the rise.
Oh yeah,
you got Josh Heupel coming back to Norman.
I know. I think you'll get a good response from fans that are there at the game, and it'll be good. And what's cool is you're bringing a bunch of schools that football is culture, football is life for these programs, for them, like across the board, like just the whole atmosphere around football, but from the game day experience to my game day going out and saying, game day is going to be there. OU Alabama, like go ahead and mark it up. Oh, it's an unranked one versus a number 26 or 25 team. Yeah, no, we're going. It's OU versus Alabama in the regular season. Come on now.
Yeah,
dude, it's going to be nuts. So you got to imagine just the tailgating experience is going to be even better in these 2 teams that are transitioning over there. Man, I'm sorry, man, it's I'm not looking. I mean, Temple, the Temple, Tulane, Texas, Auburn, that's a tough dude. At LSU, at Auburn, this is a nightmare start. The Sooners, if we're lucky, they're going to get 8 wins that year. And everyone's going to be like, well, welcome to the SEC.
Yeah, it's Yeah, the schedule does not play into Oklahoma's favor whatsoever. I sent you that video that guy doing. And there's
So,
like,
dude.
yeah, and then it's like Oklahoma, and they're like, Oklahoma, you have any insight? Yeah, why? You
Yeah.
know?
Why'd you do that, William?
Yeah,
Even
but
what's the fourth non-conference game that they have? Do they already have it out yet?
I don't know if they've announced who that was going to be.
Yeah. Okay,
I
so they
think
don't have
it's
that one yet.
yeah, I think that's the one. And then, I mean, 2025 ain't going to be any easier just because the non-conference schedule for Oklahoma in 2025, they're bringing Michigan's coming to town.
Oh boy. Yeah,
So
Michigan, Temple, Illinois State. No, it's Illinois State. Okay,
yeah,
that's good. Give them a cakewalk, please. That one's in August, dude. They're gonna start in August this year too. I didn't even notice that, or next year.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of OU fans that don't like the change, don't like going to the SEC. Oh, we're in trouble. This, the sky's falling type thing. One, we haven't even made it there. We haven't even really started, and we'll have another 2 full seasons of Mid-West, and on top of that, we got probably the most hyped prospect Oklahoma's had, since maybe Spencer Rattler, but you got Jackson Arnold coming in, and he'll probably be the starter. Come
Right, hopefully. Welcome
2024.
Starting.
Yeah, you're starting your career in the SEC, and so I think Oklahoma, and I think there's a lot of big upside for Oklahoma looking forward. They last year was the best defensive recruiting class ever in Oklahoma history, and I think this year probably will top that. I think the way that it's setting up right now, especially on the defensive line, where Oklahoma has struggled so much this year, or just over the last 10 years on the defensive line, there's a possibility that, and it's like a very real possibility where they bring in 5 of the top 12 guys in this recruiting class on the defensive line and bring in some, great corners, good edge rushers, linebackers to go with the offense that Oklahoma will always have. If they are able to build that defensive line right in the next year or so, we're looking at a team that I think has put the building blocks in the right place, to have success, contrary to what a lot of these people are saying.
Yeah. South Carolina's schedule. I hadn't looked at that one yet. That one seems pretty nice, pretty light. And I will say, I got ahead of myself. I was looking at the schedule. It's not a confirmed dates and times yet, so I was just looking at what they had ordered it on the website's FBS schedule. So apologies, anybody who's like, oh, they don't know it. Yeah, all right, my bad. Got a little ahead of myself. But South Carolina, they have at OU, at Alabama, at Clemson. They got Akron, Wofford Terriers, Old Dominion. So they got some wins in there, but it's going to be exciting. Did you see? Man, I am so fired up, and I'm so in tune with what Coach Prime is doing in Colorado. Did you see the most recent thing? I don't think I showed it to you because I think I was holding on to it. It is like one of his first days when he walked into the team clubhouse. They had a meeting. Pull it up here so I don't mess it up. It said, I got into this room and music was playing. Sanders said, I said, excuse me, what is this? Coach, we always bring the boombox into our position meeting room. A player replied, according to Sanders. I said, have you lost your mind? If you ever bring music into one of my meetings, I promise you, you'll never see each other. We'll never see each other again in life. That kind of junk was going on, and I got rid of it, and you all got a problem. They had no idea what was going on with the mess, that type of foolishness, and I just got finished challenging you as young men, telling you this room right here will not be a room we go to Fort Worth with. I promise you that. There's gonna be a lot of changes. It's up to you if you want to be one of those changes. You give it to me, you give it to me. You put it on a tee. I love that. It's like that scene in Moneyball when they're losing and they're in the clubhouse. Just Jeremy Giambi's like, yeah, and then Billy Bean comes in and goes, what do you guys have to smile about? Y'all getting crushed.
Yeah.
That's what losing sounds like. Yeah, I'm telling you. I'm excited.
Makes sense, but also at the same time, I think that I think it's a huge uphill battle for him especially this year. I
We just
mean,
saw it with OU and the transfer portal
yeah,
nightmare that can be. I 100% agree. But I'm telling you, the culture he is going to set will be a difference maker in the Pac-12.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe in the Pac-12, but
So
maybe not the Big 12.
if you win the Pac-12, you will get into the college football playoff. That's all I'm saying. If you can win
But
it with one loss.
the thing is they may not have that time in the Pac-12 to do that.
That's true. But then even if you the Big 12, if they make that transfer back or whatever, again, CFP, especially when it's 8 teams.
Honestly, everyone talks about the culture and everything, but there's a lot of stuff that I have seen where I look at it and I go, I don't think he builds that culture. I honestly just don't see. I mean, the way he lets these, like, okay, you're gonna get mad about the music, but you're going to let your kids, cuss out the refs and all this other stuff and say nothing to them about it. They come off to the sideline, you pat them on the back, and you say, okay, good job. Where's the culture there?
I'm just telling you, I feel like we're different sides of this, and I feel pretty strong about it. I'm with Coach Prime, and I guess you're against him. I guess you're 100% against him.
I'm not the Coach Prime guy. I want to see you do it in the big light. You were able to do this in small. I guess you can technically call them Division I, but you're doing this, and on top of that, you weren't playing great competitions. The first couple of years you were there, you got absolutely smoked.
Well,
and then
culture. I said 5 years.
No, I mean, but he brought in from the get-go. He had the players there, so I mean, he brought in the players. I mean, there's guys choosing him over Georgia and Alabama to go to
that. But
and so
the biggest caveat to that is the culture that you have today. You actually planted seeds for that 2 years ago, right? You don't harvest the same season. The only thing that you harvest the same week that you plant it is a weed, and that's what he's getting all the garbage out, planting new ones, and that's what we saw at Jackson State.
But the big difference though is that you're playing way worse competition. You immediately had the number one quarterback in your division, your conference, wherever it was, when your son came in, and you're still losing games. You immediately had the best defensive guys because you had them in. You had the talent, though. That's the thing. You had the talent that you should have been winning from the get-go. But the first couple of years, you struggled.
It doesn't translate to wins. You have to culture first.
He did the same exact thing he did in Colorado, where he took out the bad culture, and it didn't do anything. He still had the talent at that point.
He hasn't even played a regular season game yet.
Well, no, what I'm saying is down in Jackson State. I'm talking about Jackson State, where it didn't. At that point, you took out the bad culture and all those players and stuff like that. At that point, talent should be enough. At that point, in that small of divisions and playing against those teams, talent should be enough. Especially the talent.
I agree. I see your point.
The talent you're bringing in, where you're bringing in 4 and 5 star guys that had chose you over Alabama and Georgia, that they can play that good. You should be beating those teams that are getting 1, 2 star guys, and some of these guys aren't even getting stars. You should be beating them handedly every single game, and you weren't doing that. So I still think that I don't think he's the greatest coach, and I think that you can build the culture, but you still have to be a good coach too.
Well, I would say South Dakota State, Iowa. What, like South Dakota State is like North Dakota State, it's like Montana State. They breathe football. They have good culture. They have coaches that have been there forever, and when they get guys there, they get them into the culture, and then that will help determine the success of the team, not necessarily the talent. That's why they only lost, 7-6 to a Division I Power 5 team that has one of the best defenses that we've seen in college football. That's what I'm saying is good culture can outplay better talent. And so if you're establishing culture, it's shaky ground. Like people don't they're like, hey, I know it's going to be there. It's just not there yet. I would give him the benefit of the doubt this year that if he wins 4 games, all right, he wins 4 games. But give him a couple of years, and you will see the culture of winning and caring about the details. I think that's what you'll see.
But I think there would be a big asterisk, and it'd be marred because now you're going to be playing in the Pac-12 without USC and UCLA, 2 of the biggest teams, and more than likely in the next year or so, you're going to be playing without Oregon and these other teams. So if you stay in the Pac-12, how will we really be able to tell if the culture has actually been built if you ain't playing the
if they're not going 1-11, if they're competing and winning.
So you're saying you're okay. You can say that it's different than going 1-11 and competing because say you can go 4-8 and is that considered you built the culture up? I mean 3 more wins and.
So let's advance it. You said like a couple of years. So Oregon's gone. All right. UCLA, USC's gone. Okay. Well, all right. Well, what are you going to do? So now it's 2020, 25, 2026. 2026, their non-conference schedule will be Georgia Tech, who's not great, but Power 5 ACC, right? Houston, Power 5, Big 12, and then Northwestern, Power 5, and Big 10. So they're going to play 3 different Power 5 schools. Yeah, they're not great, but they're still going to be good.
You just named off probably the 3 worst teams in each of those conferences.
Is Houston the worst in the Big 12? You think so?
You tell me, yeah, they were good in Conference USA or whatever. You name me a worse team right now in the Big 12 than Houston, especially with Clayton Tune being gone and you have a brand new quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean maybe Iowa State.
Yeah, I think Iowa State and Cincinnati are 2 teams that are on a transition right now.
I'll still take Cincinnati.
Okay, that's fine. That's fair. I'm just saying. I'm telling you. I cannot wait to have the timestamps, and I'm just gonna be like, bro, I told you so, man. I told you.
I mean, he'll be able to get the talent and he'll be able to get the guys there because of the name. I don't buy into it like I think everyone else is. I just don't.
But I think people are very split about him. So you're definitely not alone. And I think there's a decent bandwagon that I'm like, you guys got a spot for Jimmy Theoby? I like the mountains.
I love the mountains myself. He's bringing in great talent. He's bringing the fans and stuff back, which is great for that program. As far as they have fallen off from the early 2000s to now, I mean, it's good for them to be able to get back in there. And maybe, at least I could absolutely be wrong, and we see him being one of the best coaches in college football the next few years. I hope that's the case. But I will stand with mine. I just don't. I'm not buying into the hype.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Oh man, wow. I love it because this is one of those things that I know that you're passionate about, and I know I'm passionate about. And we see eye to eye on so many things. This is not one of those.
No, this is definitely not one of those,
bro.
Those sections. No.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna have time to hit the bottom of this tier list, but I want to hit if there's any names. I know you probably looked at it quite a bit this week. I love some of the names they had, like tier 17. Wait, he's still playing? Did you see that one?
I seen it. I don't remember exactly who was on that. I don't have that far down.
With some of the Arkansas State guys, JT Shrout, Jackson Daly was one of those. Jarrett Doog from Troy, Gunnar Watson. That number sticks out. South Florida had 3 different guys who were running out of steam here. Please send help. That was great. It was just a bunch of guys competing for jobs. Like, I just like at least they're like, at this point, if you're still reading, at least have some humor, and they did a good job.
Yeah. No, there's a few of those guys. Like tier 6, I think is an interesting one. The ACC guys, you got all these guys that have a couple of them actually just swapped places within the ACC or whatever. But I think Devin Leary is one of the biggest names that we didn't get to last week. That I think is someone that coming from NC State last year, I expected Devin Leary to have a big year, and Devin Leary absolutely. I think the injuries was a massive part of what happened with Devin Leary, but he gets a freshman start, but it's in the SEC with Kentucky. I still expect there to be a lot. I think we'll see better football play out of Devin Leary than we saw out of Will Levis last year. And I think it can make them scared. Yeah, I think it could put them into a better situation with Devin Leary. I still believe a lot in Devin Leary and what he can do. And then there's one that I don't think a whole lot of people are. If you don't know college football a whole lot, I think a team that in tier 15, Texas State, you got Malik Hornsby, who was one of the top prospects coming out of high school. Went to Arkansas, got stuck behind KJ Jefferson, And then you got TJ Finley, who's been at big programs. You know, he was at Auburn, at LSU, and now you got a new coach in GJ Klein. And if any of the OU or GJ Kinney, if any of the people from Oklahoma, you know who GJ Kinney is. He's big time quarterback at Tulsa when they back in their heyday with Bill Blankenship when they were great. He was the quarterback coach, you know, other places. I think that's a very interesting one that Texas State team.
Yeah.
You look at some of the guys that they brought into this transfer portal. This is a team that is, if you have them on your non-conference schedule, this is a team you might want to be a little bit worried about with some of the talent that they have brought into the transfer portal. And honestly, the last year their team wasn't great. It really wasn't. But you got this new coach. You got these quarterbacks coming in that, I mean, just say Finley gets the job. You got a guy that's played for 2 Power 5 teams in the SEC. You got they got 2 or 3 guys that come over from Oklahoma down to Texas State. I think that this is a team that you might not want to look over, especially just because the quarterback play there's a lot of huge upside there, especially in that lower part of, you know, college football.
Yeah. 100% agree. I think the names that kind of stuck out to me was that tier 10, a third, fourth, or time is the charm. I thought that was clever. JT Daniels is the reason why. It's still in there. But Oklahoma State, I look at this and I look at a program that 5 years ago was on the pinnacle, like tipping point, and they have just taken so many steps back. I cannot, like, I look at the people they have, and they got Alan Bowman from, I think, wasn't he Notre Dame guy or something like that? Or
no, Michigan and Texas Tech.
There it is. Okay, Texas Tech. Michigan and Texas Tech. Thank you. And I think so. He's had the reps, but he hasn't had any recent reps. Like he's pre-pandemic reps here for the most part. And I think he'll probably end up winning it. But I don't understand how a program that was that good has fallen this far back and still has the same coaching staff. Gunnar Gundy, the dude is not a college quarterback. I don't know. I just don't see it. So unless they maybe not a Power 5.
Yeah, no, I think that's a situation where we're looking at. I think Oklahoma State, we see them towards the bottom of the Big 12 this year, just based off the fact that, I mean, Bowman is a guy that has upside and has talent. He's proven he has the arm and can do stuff like that.
Yeah,
but he also is a guy that injuries are a massive part of the reason why he's went from Texas Tech starter to the backup. Oh, he went to Michigan and started backing up there. He was third in line behind McCarthy and McNamara. And it's just now he's at Oklahoma State and everyone's like, oh, yeah, you know, we got a new quarterback. But, I mean, I think, and I'm not, absolutely one of the biggest critics of Spencer Sanders, but I don't think he's anywhere on that level of Spencer Sanders even. And I'm not huge on Spencer Sanders. So I think this is a team with all the transition, all the turmoil they had this offseason with the offense coordinator, defense coordinator, bunch of guys, you know, leaving off the defensive side because they didn't like the defensive coordinator. Well, then all of a sudden you got all these guys on the offensive side that didn't agree with the offensive coordinator and the way he was doing stuff. You know, oh, he was verbally abusing these kids and all this massive, you know, just black hole on this program that I think we're going to see the big effects of it this year. And who knows? Oklahoma State may be the worst team in the Big 12 this year. I think there's a very legit chance with the way things have gone. Yeah,
this is a time where they cannot be because of the transitions that are happening.
It's just hard just to look at it and go, I don't see a route for them to be what they've been over the last few years. Even last year when they had a poor season, I don't think that they can even get to that point. Just looking at it and everything that has gone on, and at that point, what do you do? Because I don't know if there's any scenario really where I see them firing Mike Gundy because of the fact of what he's done for the program. You know, brought him up and they've had success, and he's been there. You know, was quarterback, all that stuff at Oklahoma State. Do you just let this ride out until he decides it's ready to quit? Because at this point, you're looking at a program where, if that's the case, you may never get out of that cellar because of what's going to happen with the Big 12, Oklahoma and Texas leaving and stuff like that. I think that you're playing with fire. If you have like a 2 or 3, maybe 4 win season this year, I think it's probably time to clear house.
Oh,
And
yeah, absolutely. I think last year might have been the time to clear house. But you're right. Like, they're like, ooh, I can't. Like, they're really tied to him. And I get it. Like, he's one of the most successful coaches they've ever had. I mean, especially this long. Probably could have won a championship back with Brandon Weeden, you know?
Yeah.
That year they played Andrew Luck in the Rose Bowl, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Rose Bowl, maybe? I can't remember which. I know it was in Pasadena. That's why I thought it was definitely the Rose Bowl, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't remember.
a long time ago. So we had a great question in the chat. Who is the best player to come out of OU? I'm going to put a caveat. You can't choose a quarterback.
Okay. I wasn't going to choose quarterback, honestly.
I didn't think you were. Are you going to choose the first person that came to your head? It
Yeah.
came to your mind. All right. Let's see if it's the same person. I had two people that came to my mind. Now, you go first.
Adrian Peterson.
Oh, that was my first one, so I'll say my other one. But yeah, why Adrian Peterson?
What he did at Oklahoma, even with the injuries that he had, the collarbone, all that stuff, the shin, ankle, he was still, from freshman year to his junior year, was one of the most dominant players in college football. And the fact that he didn't win the Heisman Trophy his freshman year was was rigged, absolute terrible that he didn't win it. And then you look at what he did when he went to the NFL. He's a top 5 running back of all time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's definitely was that guy. And I don't know, it's hard to just really talk the greatness of Adrian Peterson. We've lived it and we've seen it and all that stuff, but the dominance of the kid from start to finish from Oklahoma, then going into the pros, it was just something you didn't see. It's like you're looking at what we saw with Reggie Bush in USC or Ricky Williams at Texas, Ron Dane at Wisconsin. Just this absolute dominance.
Name an Alabama running back besides Derrick Henry.
Mark Ingram, Heisman Trophy winner.
Remember Trent Richardson? But yeah, I definitely 100% agree with you on Adrian Peterson. It was the first one that came out. He was just so much better than everybody else. He had a couple like minor injuries that hurt him a little bit in college, but and same thing towards the end of his pro career. But like you said, 120 touchdowns at the pro level, so close to 15,000 yards, insane. And he just really, I mean, even his time in Tennessee, his time in Detroit, I thought this time in Detroit is the one that you're like, man, he still has something special. Like that was crazy. The other name that came to my head was Roy Williams.
Superman.
Dude, he just the Superman, obviously that stands out, but like on the defensive side, he was just a difference maker. Like it's so hard sometimes to be a difference maker that's not an edge rusher. The way we look at defense these days, he was that way whenever it was out of the secondary. It was insane what he could do. And I know that you could look at other guys and from even way before that, but you look at guys just since 2000 who are just that good, and it's something different.
Yeah, I mean, I think Leroy Selman is another name that you throw up there. That is one of the greatest in Oklahoma history. Him and his brother, his cousin, that trio was absolutely just dominant in Oklahoma back in the 70s. Was number 1 pick in the draft, NFL Hall of Famer. I mean, Leroy Selman was, an incredible defensive player for Oklahoma. I mean, I could go on. I mean, Ryan Broyles is, I think, a name that a lot of people don't take in consideration.
Consistent.
Yeah, he graduated. He had the all-time reception lead, in college football history. And I think the fact that he didn't go on to have a big NFL career, I think he gets overlooked a lot from based off of that. I mean, Teddy Lehman, Rocky Calmus, they were two of my favorite players there, growing up.
Boz. Boz guy?
Yeah, Boz. I mean, Boz was Boz. Yeah.
Are you in any way related to Jerry Tubbs?
No. I don't think Jerry Tubbs.
But two-way player lineman for OU back in the 50s.
I have been told, I mean, whether or not, I don't know how much of this, we haven't done the whole lineage things, but my grandpa, before he, passed away, he told us that we were somehow kin of Billy Tubbs, former OU basketball coach, great basketball coach, Billy Tubbs.
No big deal.
Whether that's true or not, I'm not 100% sure. But he said that we're some way related to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's but yeah, no, I don't think. From what I know, we were not related to Jerry Tubbs.
Well, one of these days, you're the one and only Tubby. Okay, how about that? You're the one and only Tubby, unless anybody else in your family's using that nickname.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a nickname that passed down. Like my dad back in high school, his nickname was Tubby.
Well, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, that's the show. That's the podcast for this week. We really, really appreciate y'all coming. Thank you so much for those in the chat, just putting in some questions, some thoughts, some ideas. It was a ton of fun having y'all there. And know that every single week when we do this podcast, Monday is about 6:30. We want you to be a part of it, but most importantly, throw in your questions, your ideas. I mean, we would love to know who your favorite teams are. We'd love to know what questions, what's driving you crazy about your team right now, because we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it on the podcast. You can be a part of the podcast in that way. So know that you are a part of what makes this podcast so much fun. And we appreciate you because you are the ones who are truly, you just got to listen. You're doing it. You're doing it right now. So big thank you, guys. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Big thank you.
Yeah. So till then, we're going to go ahead and wrap this podcast up. And don't worry, you can still subscribe to the podcast, listen to old episodes. If you haven't caught them all, you can watch the podcast over on YouTube where you can see the new hat I was repping with the Cardinals today. Or you can see Tubby repping all the Sooners gear that you could imagine. It's always repping something fresh.
It's basically college football season for me. So
that's got to do it. But till then, guys, we will see you all next week.
See ya.
Sometimes I almost hit the power button, not the in record button, and then I lose all of it. I did that once. Remember that?
Yeah.
So I got to find out what time Stephanie works on Sunday or Thursday.
Okay.
Possibly, would you be able to do a pre-recorded podcast Thursday?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Depends. Yeah, I probably could at night.
it would probably be at night for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Looks like for her. So I won't be able to do one next Monday. So the other option is don't do one, and then you can definitely jump on and I can give you the login. You can have a solo show. You can bring on one of the other guys and just whatever if you want. And then I can still edit it. I just
don't
can't
know if it ended.
Doing it.
Still says live.
Oh. Well, it's not live now.